Arizona Territory, before dawn. A 10-year-old boy stands shivering in the dark while his grandfather fills his mouth with water. Then the old man points at a mountain 4 miles away and says one word, run. The boy runs, through cactus, over rock, in the cold, and when he returns with the sun rising, he spits the water out at his grandfather's feet. Every drop, still there. He has run 8 miles breathing only through his nose. He is not being punished. He is being educated. This is how the Apache built the fighters that a modern army could not catch in 25 years of trying. To understand Apache training, look at Apache country. The Southwest is beautiful the way a blade is beautiful, mountains of broken rock, summers over 100 degrees, winters that freeze the high country, water hidden in places only knowledge can find. The Chiricahua, Mescalero, and Western Apache lived in small bands scattered across this furnace, surrounded for 2 centuries by enemies, Spanish soldiers, Mexican scalp bounty hunters, and finally the U.S. Army. In country like that, a soft child was a dead child. So the Apache made a decision most cultures never face: childhood itself would be the weapon. The foundation of everything was running, because the Apache's secret weapon was never the horse. Horses need water and grass, and the desert offers neither. A horse in Apache country was food that carried itself. Warriors moved on foot, and they moved like nothing the army had ever seen, 50, 60, 70 miles a day across broken country, day after day. Cavalry pursuing them rode their mounts to death and watched the trail disappear. That engine was built in childhood. Boys ran before breakfast every single day, summer and winter, from the age of 6. First to the hilltop, then to the far hilltop, then beyond. The mouthful of water was the graduate course. Breathing through the nose forces deep, efficient rhythm. Carrying water without swallowing builds the one discipline the desert demands above all: thirst control. Apache training treated water the way other armies treated ammunition. Children learned to drink deep before a journey, then travel a full day on nothing. They learned every hidden spring, every rock tank, every cactus that could be cut for moisture. Army scouts marveled that Apache could cross valleys that killed white men, carrying nothing. The Apache weren't stronger than thirst. They had simply met it in childhood, and made an arrangement. Then there were the games, if you can call them that. Boys divided into teams and shot arrows at each other, blunted, sometimes tipped with mud balls, learning to dodge, to read a shooter's shoulders, to never stand still. They fought with slings, whipped stones at moving targets, wrestled in pairs and in swarms. One favorite drill: a boy stood in a circle while others threw stones at him. His task was simply not to be hit. Elders watched and corrected like drill instructors. By the time an Apache boy was 14, being shot at was not an emergency. It was Tuesday. Cold was another teacher. Boys were rolled in snow and made to swim icy water in winter. They slept away from the fire and went without blankets, because a warrior who needs comfort has already lost. One Chiricahua remembered his training bluntly: they made us break ice to bathe, and if we hesitated, we did it twice. Endurance of pain was tested and praised, but never cruelty for its own sake. The elders explained every ordeal: the enemy will not wait for warm weather. The desert will not feed the unprepared. We do this because we love you, and we want you alive. Stealth was studied like a science. Boys learned to move through dry brush without a sound, to read tracks the way we read sentences: this deer was limping, this man passed at dawn, heavy, hurried. They practiced stalking: creep close enough to a grazing deer to touch it, or to another boy standing guard. They learned to vanish, to fold into shadow and rock so completely that soldiers later swore the ground itself hid them. General Crook's officers reported Apache appearing from bare, open terrain as if condensing out of the heat. It was not magic. It was 10,000 hours of practice. At around 15, the boy became a daikoi, a novice, and entered the apprenticeship every warrior served, 4 raids as a probationer. On those 4 raids he did not fight. He cooked, guarded horses, hauled water, stayed awake while men slept, and obeyed a strict ritual code: special words only, no looking back along the trail, discipline in every gesture. The men watched him the whole time. Was he steady? Was he honest? Did he complain? Only after 4 clean raids could he volunteer as a full warrior. The Apache did not send boys to war. They sent examined men. And beneath all of it ran the spiritual current, because to the Apache, skill without power was not enough. Alone in the mountains, fasting, a young man sought his power, a vision, a gift from the world, power over horses, over healing, over finding the enemy. Geronimo's power, his people believed, was that guns could not kill him, and he died old, in bed, after a lifetime under fire, which settled the argument as far as the Chiricahua were concerned. Ceremony wrapped every raid, sacred pollen at dawn, war songs at night. The body was trained. The spirit was armed. Now meet the graduate this system produced, because one example says it all. In 1885, Geronimo's band, never more than about 40 fighting men, moving with women and children, was pursued through the Sierra Madre by 5,000 U.S. soldiers, a quarter of the entire army, plus 3,000 Mexican troops. For over a year, that force could not corner them. The band crossed deserts at night, struck, scattered, reassembled at rendezvous points 100 miles away. Every skill in that campaign, the running, the water discipline, the vanishing, was a childhood lesson, cashed in against an industrial empire. One more thing Hollywood never told you, some of those warriors were women. Lozin, sister of the chief Victorio, trained like the men, fought like the men, and was famous for a power the bands trusted with their lives. Standing with outstretched arms, she could sense the direction of approaching enemies. Victorio called her his right hand, strong as a man, braver than most. She rode in Geronimo's last free band too. Apache girls, like boys, ran at dawn and learned the water rules, because in that country, survival did not check who you were. It checked what you could do. The United States Army paid the Apache the strangest compliment in its history: it hired them. Apache scouts, enlisted from the very bands the Army fought, became the only troops who could reliably track other Apache, and officers like Crook admitted openly that without them, the wars were unwinnable. Decades later, the Army was still studying Apache methods. Modern Special Forces survival and evasion training echoes, point by point, the Daikohi curriculum: move light, master thirst, own the night, vanish. The toughest childhood on the continent had produced something armies still chase: the complete, self-sufficient fighting human. The Apache Wars ended in 1886, but the people did not. Chiricahua descendants live today in Oklahoma and New Mexico. Mescalero and Western Apache nations hold their mountains still, and the girls' coming-of-age ceremony, 4 days of running, dancing, and endurance, is still danced every summer. The training survived because it was never really about war. It was about refusing to be fragile. Next on this channel, Native American medicine that amazed Army surgeons, and the real story of scalping. Who started it will surprise you. Subscribe. The true history of this land is tougher, smarter, and stranger than the legend.